Hi, my name is Vanessa Camacho, and today I'm going to walk you through a presentation on getting to know your history textbook. And this presentation is specific to the Eric Foner Give Me Liberty textbook, but there's some tips in here that you can use with any textbook that you're taking, for a course you're taking. So to start off, we're going to just look at the main sections of the textbook and kind of see what resources are out there to help you out. Table of contents, it's always good to just take a look and see how the chapters are divided, and these divisions might coincide with how your instructor divides their lectures. The appendix provides primary sources and tables and figures. Primary sources, your instructor might use them in their lectures or with assignments, tables and figures as well, but you can also use these resources if you need to write an essay or a research paper. They're right in the back of the book, really helpful. The glossary, of course, is really helpful to look up key terms and IDs that your instructor may give you. And then the index page, also quick reference if you need to find something. Now, turning to each individual chapter. So the chapters in this book are all pretty much the same format. Starts off with a part. This one's part 1, American Colonies to 1763. And the parts just give you a sense of, kind of orient you to the chapter and the main themes, main ideas of that chapter. First page of the chapter, you get a little chapter introduction. Again, this is just to ease you into the chapter. It's probably not absolutely necessary. It may be a story that your instructor also tells you in class. It may not, but again, just to kind of help you get started. Now, if you look at the sidebar, there's focus questions, and these focus questions might coincide with questions your instructor will give you in class. I know I tend to overlap them in my class. There's page numbers, so that's always helpful, again, if you're trying to find something really quickly. The next page of the chapter, on the sidebar, you get a chronology, a timeline. It depends if your instructor really emphasizes dates or not, but what every instructor wants you to know is the basic timeline for when things happen. We want to get a chronology. We don't want to get mixed up when one thing happened before another. So again, for quick reference, it's always good to take a look at that timeline. All right, so now getting to know a chapter, going further, look at the major sections and the subsections. So this is helpful when you get down to the textbook note-taking outline, which is also available on the LibGuide. So we start off here with the first Americans. So it's going to be a major section, and then you have a little subsection here called the Settling of the Americas. You can divide up your reading by either reading major sections or subsections, and then you can divide up your notes the same way. So that's why it's good to see kind of how big the sections are and the subsections. Foner also includes these little handy green arrows, and within these green arrows are IDs that, in my class, they coincide with IDs I provide on my lecture outlines on my PowerPoints. All instructors are different, but these are, again, really helpful if you're looking for quick information and to get organized. There's maps, of course. Your instructor will probably show you maps in class. They'll probably be the same maps. Maps have a lot of information in them. Don't ignore them. There's also sections called Voices of Freedom. These are primary sources that, again, your instructor may reference or not, but they just give you a peek into the experiences of people at that point in the chapter, in the narrative. Now, if you turn to the end of the chapter, you have a section called the Chapter Review and Online Resources. And the review questions, again, these are questions that might overlap with questions that your instructor asks in class or puts on their PowerPoint. It might not, but if you feel like you need some more review, you can always come back to these review questions, and just helps you get a little more in-depth into the chapter. Over here, the key terms, again, they could overlap with what your instructor provides. They may not. They also include page numbers, so if you need to find something in a hurry, this is a good page to look at to get that information. Down here, the study spaces, this is usually something you have to do on your own, but every Foner textbook you have access through study spaces. It comes with the textbook, and if you think you need additional references, videos, practice quizzes, then feel free to go and check that out. Okay, so now it comes to the reading. And when I talk about reading the chapter, it's going to coincide with the handout that's also available on the LibGuide. So for my class, I have a lecture outline PowerPoint that I make available on Blackboard before the class, and students print it out. And on this outline, it's basically my lecture, the major themes, high points of my lecture. And so the first step is to rewrite the lecture IDs and the focus questions in your notebook. Again, your instructor probably does the same thing, maybe just a little bit different, so you have to adjust to your instructor. Then you turn to the chapter and you want to skim the entire chapter. And this is just to get a lay of the land, just to get a sense of what is my instructor going to talk about in class and where is that information in the textbook. And as you go through, you want to use marginal notes, little pencil markings. Pencil's always great, so you can erase it later. But a highlighter or flags or Post-its or something so that you can mark the places where your lecture outline or your class notes and the chapter coincide. Okay, and you're just skimming. You're just getting a sense of like, this is where everything is. Okay, then you're going to go back to the major section. So it could be the first section, maybe you're a little bit further into the chapter, and this is where you're going to start reading. And as you're reading, you want to pay close attention to where those flags, the Post-its, the markers, the highlighting, to those spaces, because that's what your instructor talked about in class, and those are probably the areas that you need to really make sure you understand and that you take in and pay close attention to. Now, this is the key part. When you're done with the major section or with a subsection or however you divided up your reading, you need to write a short summary. Okay? You can read 5 chapters in one day, but afterwards, if you don't write anything down or you don't make any marks or any highlights or any Post-its, you're probably not going to remember anything. And that just goes for any class, anytime. So when you're finished with a section, you want to go to your notes and write a short summary, okay? Also, go back to your notes and remember you wrote down those lecture IDs and focus questions. Did you come across any of those in your reading, in the little section that you did? And if you did, in your notes, write a short definition, write a page number, write a couple of sentences so that when you go to your notes, you are creating yourself a study guide. And if you're studying for a quiz, you don't have to go back to the chapter and pull all this information. You already have it in these notes that you're creating. And then you repeat for each section until you finish that chapter. Okay, here are some more suggestions. Read daily. It's really important to make a consistent habit to read 15 minutes minimum. Now, you have a lot of reading to do, not just for history, but for all your other courses. If you wait until the last minute, it's too much information and you won't be able to remember it and you'll get tired and frustrated, and we do not want that. So make a consistent habit to read. But it's not just about reading, it's about taking the notes as well. If you're feeling stuck, if you're getting kind of bored, turn each heading into a question. So one of the sections we looked at was the first Americans, or settling into the Americas. Turn that into a question. How did the first Americans settle into the Americas? Seems kind of like it's not going to make a difference, but it's just a little bit of way to stimulate your brain to get you into reading that section. Now again, write a note or summary each time you read and set a goal and write it in your own words. Don't just copy down what's in the textbook. You won't remember it. It won't stick in your head. If you do it in your own words, then you're able to process the information better and you'll be able to remember it better. Review with a classmate. If you haven't already made a friend in your class, in any of your classes, or make one next time you see them. The person next to you, hi, how you doing? It's really helpful to know someone. If you miss class, you can always email them, or if they're going to share their number with you, you can text them, call them, say, can I borrow your notes? Let's get together and talk. The more you talk about this subject, any course you're taking, then the better you're going to be able to remember it and process it. Now, I like taking notes, like an outline. It's just the way it helps me out. I have a lot of students who do 3x5 cards, and they'll run through their cards and put key terms and focus questions on them. But you can also make a diagram or a flow chart to map your ideas. You have to try any and all techniques to really see which one's going to work best for you. And when you find that technique that works for you, stick with it, and apply it to all your classes, and you'll be a much more efficient student, and you'll see an improvement in your courses. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. Again, sometimes this is the first challenge is just figuring out how to read the textbook, and you have to read your textbook. I know there's a misconception out there that you don't need your textbook, but you do, especially for a history course where there's so much information. You just can't get it all from the class lecture and your notes. You need something to go to and refer to, and that's where the textbook comes in. So that's been the presentation. Thank you so much.